Well, welcome to Flat Earth Friday. This is Iron Realm Media. As always, TGIF, thank God it's flat. I am Josh Corey, and we've got a little bit of a different show for you today. Not our usual cast of characters. We have some people traveling, some people sick, some people out, so some people joining us later. So things are going to be a little different, a little maybe mixed up. And despite our normally very formal, very rigid and stringent standards, today may be a little less so. We may just be flying by the seat of our pants. But welcome. It's Friday. With us we have Adam Meakin, who is usually with us, and
Good evening.
James, the Full Armor.
Howdy, folks. How you doing? Hope everybody had a good week in Flatville.
Now, this week we have a couple of our friends from Twitter joining us to discuss some things that have been going on with them and what they got happening. So we have Tony from the UK. Tony, you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me now? So, hello, good evening.
Yep, that's perfect.
Nice to be here.
Excellent. And also we have Paul on the plane. Paul, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody. TGIF, and good afternoon from the U.S.
Awesome. So yeah, things are pretty laid back today. Even though it's been kind of an eventful week, we've been really discussing some stuff with one of our previous guests, John Brahma, who is trying to fund an expedition to Antarctica. A lot of information he gives is kind of hard to vet. So we've got lots of people talking to him so we can compare and contrast answers. But man, has he had some interesting things come out this week. Adam, you want to talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think I've had a chat with him this Sunday, and I think that's one of the other reasons that Tony's here this evening. He's had a lot of contact with John, and part of the reason we wanted to turn on tonight was to give his side of the story from the contact he's had with him, so people can hear a little bit more detail from, somebody else that's not part necessarily of Iron Realm, but somebody that's part of the Flat Earth community that's had independent contact with him. So I thought that'd be useful for people to listen to, and we want to get onto that later on. And then obviously the most important bit that's been messing with our heads was the picture.
Yeah, the picture
that we received that I think we're going to release tonight, and via one of Walt's lovely little videos, I think initially, aren't we? Or
well, Walt had it up there for a brief second in that intro video that I played. I had it up for a brief instant on my little still screen that I had up, but we can absolutely put just the picture itself there.
Let's save it for later. Let's get back to the first point, because
Walt did an amazing job on that intro, and it was the last picture, Adam. It was kind of cool. A little teaser for the very end of that video he put. So I'm open to putting it up too when we discuss it later after Paul.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's been distracting me this week is me and John were contacted by Paul, who's planned a little experiment, and we all had a chat this week just seeing what his plans were, and he kindly asked us if we had any requests that he would could help us with whilst he was doing his experiment, and he's helping us with that. So yeah, that's the other big thing that's been distracting me this week, and I'm looking forward to Paul doing his experiment and getting some results, and then getting back to everybody with what we find out. So I won't jump in. I'll let Paul explain it himself. I don't know if it's probably a good time to let you explain what you're up to, mate.
Paul, before you jump into that real quick, we just wanted to say hi to Walt. Walt has joined us.
Oh,
Hey
excellent.
guys, yeah, I'm on the road. We actually got stopped by a big wreck. A truck got like off the road and stuff. So I'm running a little late. I'm not at the airport yet, but I saw that y'all were in. Just wanted to say hey. Hey Tony, glad to see you here. Hey Paul, glad to see you here.
Hello,
Hey,
Walt. Hello.
Hey, Walt.
and then hey to the regs, my crew, my boys. Glad to see y'all.
What's happening, Walt?
Just running madness as always. You know, the usual trip stuff. Going on a trip's always hectic. Well, the traffic hasn't helped.
Where are you headed, Walt? Where are you going?
Hey, let me show y'all something real quick. This is the second one of these I've seen. Hang on one second. Let me ask y'all if y'all know what this is. Let me turn my camera around here. Oh, man. Do y'all see that thing at the top of that pole behind that truck over there? It's a big black thing at the top of a tower. It's the second one I've seen in this area. I've never seen those in my life. Are y'all seeing it?
Probably not. I need to switch it up so people can see.
Get a close up of it, Walt, if you
I'm
can.
trying, man. I'm trying. I'm going to take a picture of it. Yeah, I'm going to take a picture of it.
That's weird, dude. That looks like
I
a
know.
radar
It's
tower.
like some kind of weird
I'm pretty
thing.
sure I've seen quite a few of them in the UK, you know.
That's not familiar for me down here in South Louisiana. So anyway, yeah, well, I'm gonna try to keep muted as much as I can because I know this road noise doesn't help for the show. But just glad I could pop in. Once I get settled at the airport before I board the plane, I'll pop back in.
Excellent. All right. Well, you guys stay safe.
Yeah, we will, and y'all definitely pump up that picture that John sent us. And Paul, I'm excited to see what your experiments are like whenever it gets done. I'm actually going to do a few myself on the plane and talk to some people if I can. Maybe the pilot in one of them, maybe the smaller plane. I'll get to talk to him. So,
Yeah,
all right,
cool
guys.
stuff. Cool.
Safe trip, dude. Safe
All right,
trip.
man. Y'all take care.
You do the same. Keep the smokies off your six.
Indeed, 10-4.
I'm loving
I'll
the
catch y'all on the flip side.
All right. Awesome. Sorry to interrupt you, Paul. You go right ahead. Let's just jump right into what you got going on.
Sure, you bet. You bet. Do you want me to share my screen here, or do you want me to just kind of talk through it?
Why don't you share your screen? Because I assume there's probably going to be things that people are going to want to see.
Well,
If
yeah,
you
I think I
can.
could just kind of play the video in the background of the stuff I've been doing. Let's see. How do I do that? Here it is. Share screen. Let me know when you can see it.
There we go.
We good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So the videos I've just got playing here in the background, I'll kind of walk through it. So essentially what's happening is I've got a couple of flights coming up, some long distance flights. So I thought this would be a great opportunity. And I know you guys have all probably been talking about and seen, the stuff that Rannick put out about the bubble level app and taking it on an airplane, flying a good distance and then turning it back on and seeing if the phone registers a change in what it thinks is level. And so basically what I've been doing the last couple of days, and I'm in the midst of the final experiment right now, what I'm doing is testing this phone. As you can see in the middle of the screen is an old Windows phone of mine, and loading up the bubble level app and then calibrating it at either on a flat surface, which it is now, just sitting in the carpet of my place, or propped up, and I've got a toy there that I've just been propping it up and then calibrating it. And I started by just turning off the phone so that it was completely off, and then turning it back on and changing its angle, and then seeing if it remembered what was flat, what I told was level. And then when I turn it back on at a different angle, or propped up on something, did it change? Did it register the change? And so I started by just doing a quick reboot, shutting it off and shutting it on. And then the second set of experiments were unplugging the phone and letting it completely die on its own so that the battery completely runs out of juice, and then plugging it back in and seeing if it registered the change by the change in position. And then the kind of the third phase of the experiment was letting the phone completely die, calibrate it, unplug it, let it completely die, and then wait. And this last one was up to 14 hours. I left it just sitting there. with no juice, completely dead, seeing if it kind of resets or anything like that, something internally when it sits that long idle without any juice, and then changing its position and turning it on and seeing if the bubble had moved. And it did. It remembered after that long. And so what I'm in the midst of now is kind of the fourth and final phase, is where I have it sitting at a certain angle and I have it propped up with the toy there. And this is just one of the videos that I shot, kind of explaining the whole process. Letting the phone die, have it propped up, sitting on the toy, letting it completely die, and then letting it sit for 24 hours. And then booting it up, sitting in a different position and seeing if it registered a change. And what I'm trying to duplicate is what I'm going to do at the airport. And that is when like I said, I've got 2 long distance flights. The total air miles is about 5,500 miles. So we should see a pretty good change if we live on a globe in what the phone would register as level. So I'm going to be in my departure airport, and I'm going to set it on the floor, a counter or something I know that is level in the building, and calibrate it. Let the phone completely die and shove it in my bag. And I'm going to take these 2 flights. I'm going to land. It's going to be probably 15, 16 hours later after my 2 flights are complete with my layover in between. And I'm going to take the phone out and I'm going to set it at the destination airport on the ground or on the table, whatever, something that is flat, or level compared to, to the airport that I'm in, and then turn it on. I'll have to plug it in because it'll be completely dead. I'll have to find some electricity, plug it in, let the phone boot up. And if we live on a globe, based on these experiments, we should see the bubble be off center. It should be very off center. And that's what I'll be looking for. But I'm hypothesizing that, and I'm showing in the video here, kind of what that would look like on a globe, what I would expect. And what we expect to see, obviously, is when I boot the phone up at my destination, the bubble will still be completely in the middle. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's really awesome. And this is what you, Adam, and John kind of devised doing?
Yeah, this is kind of the main one. We're also I'm going to be using my other phone's Bubble Level app, and then I'm going to be doing some videoing for an hour of the phone sitting there, and noting the time that I start recording and the time that I end the recording, and altitude and speed, if I can get those things, and then provide all that to John. I think it was John. No, it's Adam, I think. He's got some fun math problems coming up with some of the vectors, and he'll have my flight information as well, so he'll be able to track that and use some of the data that I'll have from that flight as well. And that second flight's about 3,000 miles or so. So I got about a 2,500 mile flight, and then about a 3,000 mile flight that we'll be doing these experiments on. And I don't know. I mean, you guys, we could play some devil's advocate here. I've been trying to eliminate a lot of that with these pre-flight experiments, but what possibly could be an objection to this proving the plane, that we're just flying over a flat plane for 5,000-6,000 miles?
I think, first of all, mate, there's no credit here. Well, what Paul's done this week is just chat with me and John to add a little criticism, and what you see there, a little bit of kind of pre-experiment testing that kind of demonstrates, as I've been doing with the Moonlight stuff, how the equipment works. And what he's done is, I think, a really thorough job and tedious work. If you watch the videos in full, as you sit there patiently, mate, waiting for the battery to die, which is hard work for anyone. Mm-hmm. But what he's done there is demonstrate how the machine works, both with a standard switching off with plenty of power in the device, and also a complete power down, and that the device is stuck to the orientation it is. So what he's demonstrated there is, I think, a good grounding for us to base the assumptions And there's still assumptions because we've got, I think, a bit more to prove, because I think a bit more detail in how accelerometers are not in any way affected by gravity is the final proof. But what we hope the experiment will show is that it doesn't show curvature. And if we can then prove that there is no definitive effect by gravity and it is solely a measurement in space, I think Paul's got a cracking experiment there.
I think so too.
Cool. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm in the middle of the 24-hour experiment where I just filmed a little bit this morning when I got up and calibrate it sitting on an angle like you see here. In fact, this is the video I took this morning, and letting the phone completely die. And then once it does that, I'm even moving the phone around, trying to duplicate. Okay, I'm going to, when I'm doing this in the airport, once it dies, I'm going to, put it in my bag, zip it up, and it's going to be tossed around and, on 2 flights and walking through the airport and, yada, 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 all this stuff. So shaking it around and then 24 hours later, booting it up and seeing if it remembered that orientation, like John said, or like Adam said, excuse me. And so if it passes that test, then the hypothesis would be, if we live on a globe, I should see the same exact results flying 5,500 miles. What we're expecting to see is obviously that I don't have any results like I'm expecting, because I did not change the phone's orientation when I boot it back up. It's still in the same relative position to where I calibrated it.
Which it will not be when you land.
Exactly. If we live on a globe, it should be completely different.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, I
So
love
that's
it.
where we're at. So it's a pretty easy experiment. I think most of the work is actually done before, making sure that the phone, and kind of proving to myself and anybody that would maybe question this later, well, your phone's, and you can see I'm moving the phone around now. It's completely dead. It's gonna be 24 hours like this, and then I'm gonna boot it back up, tomorrow at this time, tomorrow morning, and I would expect to see it there. I'm duplicating what I'm going to be doing at the airport, running to try and catch my plane while it's bouncing around in my bag. But trying to take away some of these objections beforehand that, hey, your phone just resets. It sits there for 12 hours. Eventually, it's just going to reset. So wherever you place it when you boot it up, it's going to be level. What I'm trying to show here is that that's not the case. It can sit 24 hours completely dead with no battery, and it still remembers the orientation that I last set it at. So hopefully that will take away a large chunk of objections when we finally publish this.
Well, as a control, I can leave that same app running the whole trip, because I have an extra battery pack that should leave it active for the whole trip. So that would be a control to show what happens if one is left running through this whole thing.
Well, that again, Walt, is a beautiful link, my friend. That's the next part of the experiment that Paul's kindly described what we're going to do, and we're going to do that and leave the not necessarily running for the whole bit, but what he's going to do is film a segment of the flight for about an hour. And if you look on the Bubble app, there's an X and a Y reading.
Yeah, I've been playing with it a bit too.
Yeah. So what I plan to do is take the hour-long recording, hopefully whilst the plane is in steady flight, steady speed, constant altitude, flying, and take these readings and convert the angle and the time at said angle, translate that into vectors, and we're going to hopefully overlay that over the internet data of the flight, and hopefully what we should then be able to do is draw whatever shape the ground is underneath the vectors that we create, which represent the flight of the plane based on that Bubble app. So we'll see where that takes us, and that's what Paul's kindly said he'll do for me is sit there for an hour.
Yeah, I'm trying to find just another camera here, because this red phone will be dead you know, so it's going to be in the bag. And so my the other cell phone sitting there, that's going to be what I'm going to have running during the flight with the Bubble Level app. It looks a little bit different. It's just a different app, but obviously it works the same. So I'm just trying to rig up another camera then so I can take video of the cell phone. That's only the last thing I got to work on to be able to get an hour of video, and maybe borrowing my one of my kids' phones to be able to do it.
Well, good luck finding the memory on those things.
Yeah. Be full of Stampy. I suppose. Yeah, don't know. But yeah, so I think we've got some really good stuff, and what Paul's said he's going to do for me is a really good test of concept as well, which we can then extend in other flights as well, from takeoff and landing, and hopefully build that. It's a lot of slow labor from what I can see I'm going to be doing, but hopefully the work should pay off, because I think there's some good maths in there that device is going to demonstrate what the plane is actually doing, not what we're told it's doing, not what the back of the seat says, but what, according to the Bubble app, it's doing in relation to the plane.
It's a really good idea. It's a really good experiment.
Yeah, I heard an accelerometer referred to this week. It made me laugh, and I almost wanted to say something, but wouldn't have done me any good because it was a video. But I bought a piece of equipment that has a built-in accelerometer, so it'll change the display depending on which way the equipment is being held. And it was referred to as a gravity detector, which I thought was hilarious, because it would detect gravity no matter which way it was being held. It would always know which way is down. So this is where we've come to, that an accelerometer on a phone is being touted as something that will actually detect gravity. We can prove gravity with the accelerometer on a smartphone, which I think is just ridiculous.
I think that's one of the first things that the Revelation video that Bob found or promoted initially kind of disproves, not through his conjecture, but through the physics forums that he's found, where it's not anybody with a vested interest in it. They're just talking about the mechanics of the device and how it works. And it was them guys that kind of showed that it I don't know. I like I said, my understanding is limited, but as I understand it, it doesn't know where it is. All it knows is how it's moved from the last point of reference. So
Exactly. And that's exactly what I have attempted to prove with these very long experiments, up to 24 hours, showing, I've got Wi-Fi turned off, I've got the Bluetooth turned off, I've got the location services turned off, it's just basically an airplane mode. So it has no connection to anything external other than power when I need it. And when it's dead, it still remembers the last place that you said was level, no matter how long ago that has been. And that's what these experiments prove, which then should be duplicated if we live on a globe when I fly 5,500 miles and do the same thing.
So, Paul, you seem to understand it quite well. So this is the bit I don't fully understand. So I understand how it works in a big scale, because when it's then turned into the actual accelerometer chip, and in the big scale, you can understand how 0 has to be reset because the weight on the spring is affected by density or gravity, whatever your perspective needs to be. But then, as far as I can see, within the actual accelerometer chip, is there a measurable difference even by density of the weight of the small structure? Do you know what I mean? Within that, is that measured and accounted for in the comparative large scale model? Do you understand what I'm on about? Or
I think so. You'd think that the phone's properties would be different if it's propped up on that toy it's a different weight distribution of the phone, which could affect the accelerometer. Is that kind of where you're going?
No, what I'm meaning is in any way, whether you think it's gravity that they're saying doesn't affect it, or whether you think it's density and buoyancy, is the contents of the inside of the chip making buoyancy and density neutralized as well, or do those? Because when you, if you were on a ball and you took it across and it was, then the effect of buoyancy and density or gravity, because you have to consider gravity in the argument to disprove it. So if you accept the theory of how it would work if gravity existed, over there, if part of the alignment and the negative reset, which they talk about in terms of zero being in free fall, if you include that and accept their theory to argue against it, then is the inside of the accelerometer affected in any way by buoyancy and density, and also or do they also think that gravity affects it? Because that's my only point of conjecture with the whole experiment. And that was long-winded. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I understand it. I mean, I don't know. I think unless you've got to probably refer back to some of the interviews there that Rannick had, I think, in his original video with some of the techie guys there that build these things and explain how they work. Of course, they think gravity is required for it to work, I think, or they, that it's built with that in mind. But what I think this or at least in my mind, the pre-flight experiments that I'm doing here are showing, I think, that it's an irrelevant part of the conversation for this experiment, or part of the factors of or conditions of the experiment. Now that might be unfortunate for us because it's not completely part of it. But what I think this has done and what I've learned just from, walking through this over the last couple of days is that no matter where the phone ends up, when I turn it back on, it's just going to remember its last position. And whether that was propped up or whether it was sitting, and I've done it both ways. I've started it with it being kind of propped up, so where it thinks that level is off kilter in real life to me and my, where I am. And then doing it the opposite, where, laying it flat and turning it back on, it still thinks that level was propped up. So, and then doing that in reverse, starting with the phone laying on a flat level surface, letting it die, and then propping up and turning it on. It remembers what the last position was. So I think by showing that we start with it propped up and telling the phone that this is level, no matter where you are, the next time that we're going to look at this bubble level app, this is going to be level. And then changing that when you boot it up, I think shows that it's just looking for its orientation from the last position it was in. At least that's what I think.
I don't disagree. I'm just prepping for shell attack after the, if you know what I mean.
You're right. I know what else could I do? We talked about, maybe breaking the phone open and removing the battery completely. That would be probably the only other thing that we could do to try and remove any variables. I've, turned off all of the services of the phone and let it sit, completely dead for up to 24 hours to see if it makes a difference. And it doesn't. It always remembers the last position it was in, even if that wasn't level, or what I know wasn't level. So that's probably the limit of this experiment. And I can't fly much further and demonstrate this. It should be far enough to see a change in the orientation from where its last position was when I calibrated it.
Yeah, there should be more than enough. I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah, me too. Obviously I think we're not going to see any change. We're going to see it. We're going to see the bubble right in the middle. And people are going to probably come back and say, well, that's just because, gravity. But hopefully these pre-flight experiments have taken away some of that, or some naysayers, to show that, the process beforehand was to show that it didn't matter whether it was truly level or not when I started the experiment, that when I rebooted the phone, it still remembered what I told it was level, even if it really wasn't.
Right.
If you know what I mean. So that's where we're at. So I'm leaving in a couple of days. And as soon as I have some data to share, you'll be hearing from me.
Awesome. That's super exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it, bro. And thanks.
Have a safe trip, man. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, you bet. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here and turn it back over to you guys.
Really good work, mate. Really good work.
What are your thoughts, Tone?
No, I think, excuse me. I think it's really, really good. The technical stuff. I'm learning tonight. I think a little bit about this. I didn't know a lot about the app until tonight, so I hadn't known about the experiment. So I'm learning as well. But I think it sounds really good, and I think we all know what the result will be at the end of it. So
I think the best thing about this experiment, right, is I'm not sure if Paul's posted his equipment validation stuff, but it's actually something that you can do yourself at home totally. Do you know what I mean? And you can actually test it and prove that the equipment he's using does exactly what it says. There's no scam. There it is. Do you know what I mean? And actually, if anyone's off to Ibiza soon, they can do the whole experiment themselves.
I'm off to Odessa in the middle of July, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to have a go then myself. Yeah. So nice bit of distance.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is something that anybody that's going to get on an airplane, even if you're only going to be traveling, a couple hundred miles, technically, we should have at least hundreds of feet of curvature and a different angle that you would, your phone would recognize as level, getting on and off a plane. So great point. Anybody can try this. And that's the point, this has got to be something that can be repeated and everybody could do it to consider it somewhat valid. And then obviously every time we do this, we need to try and improve it and eliminate more variables and make the whole experiment have as much integrity as possible.
I was just thinking there, you just said, as Tone just said, I'm going on holiday. And it's also a great experiment you can do with your kids, because they've all got phones or tablets that'll have this stuff in. And it's something you can actually get them to test and try as well. It's something I'm going to do with my boys.
Yep. I got
when we go on
2
holiday.
Kids going with me. So we'll probably be doing this often going forward, and trying to get better and better every time we do it, to document it better and publish it. And I'd love to see everybody getting on planes, going forward here, everybody trying this out and publishing their results, and just get a ton of this stuff online.
You'll have 100 people in the airport lounge, all kneeling down, calibrating their phones before they get on the flight,
That would be a great sight to see.
Hey, Paul, would you mind telling our listeners a little bit, because you've got a family and you're quite involved now, it appears, in Flat Earth. How did you get into it, and how do you find yourself where you are now, doing experiments with your kids, running a channel, and all sort of that? How did it all come about for you?
Thanks, James.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for asking. I've always been a skeptic. That's probably where a lot of us start to, get drawn into some of this stuff. But my specific story is, my wife and I were at the dinner table, and she was in a Facebook group that somebody mentioned Flat Earth, and she had never heard of it. And so we were at the dinner table, and she said, hey, let me tell you what something crazy I heard today. There's people out there that think the Earth is flat. This is last fall, and I had same reaction anybody does, like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Who the heck would believe that? I mean, they must have been living in a cave for the last 500 years, right? Or they must be some remote Indian tribe or Aboriginals, people that never seen, TV or watched anything, that are just way behind. But there was a seed that was planted, and that's the key. A couple of days later, I was still thinking about it, and so I went online and I Googled it, and what happens from there. I came across a lot of ODD's videos and Dubé's videos and Mark Sargent videos, and made a lot of sense. So, and I think that's why it's so important when we're just doing, some of these things, and just getting the awareness out there that flat Earth is a thing. Because there's people that will just be curious enough to start looking into it. Because that's exactly what my story is.
Great stuff.
I was just curious. Just curious.
Tell me tell me how your wife is involved. Does she support you fully? Does she believe? How's that relationship go?
She's definitely not into it as much as I am. I mean, we have a young family. We've got older kids and recently adopted a baby girl. So, super busy with that. So she's kind of just lets me do my thing, but she knows that she's a lot like me. She's a globe skeptic at the very baseline level, knowing that what we've been told and what we see is
She believes it's a ball still, or is it flat for her?
It's flat for her. She's just not as involved. And of course, I'm a loudmouth. So as soon as I came to this conclusion, I started blabbing all around the house, and so I've got 2 older kids too, and so now they're involved. And
how old are they?
Let's see, they are now 15 and 12. So
yeah.
They've had some interesting conversations already at school and with their friends, and it's toughening them up. That's for sure. They're going to have to. They've learned to just stand up for what they believe in, and they bring it up when they think it's appropriate, and when they get laughed at, they're okay with it. They realize that not everybody's ready, and especially the young folks, it might be a little bit tougher. They don't have access maybe, or the time, or maybe the skills and the focus and the concentration to really spend months on this like a lot of us do to before we would really come to any conclusions, because you gotta spend some time uncovering this stuff and seeing the objections and that sort of thing.
Do you mind telling us what you do for a living, if you can? Are you allowed to?
What I'll tell you is I'm self-employed. I work in the technology industry. So I pretty much work from home and have a number of clients that I work for, and in the technology side. So that's what I share. So that allows me some I don't have a commute, which is helpful in maximizing my time.
Yeah, both free time and work time. Yes, awesome, good stuff, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks again for having me, and look forward to reporting back when I've got something more to share.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, really look forward to it, mate. Really, really, really look forward to it.
Yeah, excellent. Adam, you had some experiments going on as well, did you not?
Well, we had we revealed last week, didn't we, some of the test data, and literally since last week I had one clear night where we managed to get the Moonlight experiment actually up and running, and I think around about 60% the moon was. I'm not sure what it's like outside. I'm gonna have a look in a bit, and got some fantastic results. Are you able to pull it from the file, John? The picture, at least. I'm not sure if I can certainly send it into the room. One of the photos that I took a screenshot the other day of, and you might be able to share that. I'll just stick it in the link room.
If you can't, Adam, at least what you want to do is explain the changes that happened when you switched. That was the excellent part.
that's what I'm hoping to do. Let me just send you the picture because this will show it. So last week, let's just make sure that's sent. Let's get it up because it will make a bit more sense if the graph's there, even if it is crap resolution. Have you got that in the links room, Josh?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now.
Cool. So last week we demonstrated the understanding that the equipment works as we would expect it to. And we saw a couple of freaky results whilst the moon was out during the day, which, you know, intrigued me but didn't mean a great deal. And like I said, I had one opportunity this week to do it. The moon was pretty much out. Put the equipment out, and over, I think it was about 90 minutes, the experiment, I'll just talk in terms of in the moonlight and outside of the moonlight for ease of description. After the 90 minutes there, and these two sensors are, like I say, no more than 12 inches apart. The difference, I think, was 1.2, maybe 1.4 degrees.
All right,
I think it was 1.4. Call it, Josh.
Yeah, let me just share it so everybody else in the Hangout can see it. Because, you know, nothing in my life is ever easy.
I like to keep you on your toes. You're a good man. You help me. I'm completely inept. I only have a phone, and any more would be too much for me.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
There we go.
It's too bad John's not here. John, I hope your sorry bum is feeling better, brother. Get well soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
results are up.
Okay, so what we've got there, the top line is the full length of the experiment. And up until 90 minutes is the first part of the experiment. And you can kind of see that it's about just over 3/4 of the way down on the top graph. And you can see there that the general trend is, you can see the green line, which is the sensor that is in the moonlight, and I've got to zoom in a minute. What is it? The purple line, isn't it? I'm looking at it on my phone here, mate. The purple line is the sensor
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Paul on the plane. Welcome to my channel.
Sorry. Don't mind
People
me,
are
Paul.
waking up.
That scared me. That
Was it? Yeah, scared me a little too.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the autoplay.
That's good. I've got my. So we've got. If we stick with just the purple and the green lines, what you can see there is by the point in 90 minutes, the green line is, like I say, 1.2 degrees. The red line on the top is the one in the box, and we can see it's cooling, and it's cooling the point of the air temperature, which is the blue. And you can see roughly at 90 minutes. Interestingly, the one in the glass dome is also at the same temperature as the air temperature, having cooled. Now, we would have also expect that one to be slightly warmer than the air temperature because it's not exposed to the wind and the environment, but it is exposed to the moonlight. So that's interesting. But the interesting point there was that we saw, like I say, a 1.4 degree difference after 90 minutes. Now it was getting late, so I thought that's enough. I'm happy with that. And then I thought I'll just swap them over. And
Yes.
so what I did at this point was literally replace the green and the blue sensors from their two positions. And you can see this is where you zoom in on the bottom graph, and you can see that you can see what happens. It gets warmer, the green one, and the purple one gets cooler. So as we move the purple one out of the shade and into the moonlight, it suddenly gets cooler. And I think, I'm not sure after the time, it's probably about 40 minutes or so, isn't it? I think. And that by that point, there's about a 1.2 degree difference, total reversal, which is like a 2.6 degree reversal between the two. And this is way, 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 way beyond any criticism of the machinery we're talking about. Like I said, these are calibrated pieces of equipment that were expensively calibrated.
Right.
And they have an accuracy of 0.1, 0.2 degrees. So you add the two together, the biggest variance you can have really is 0.4 of a degree.
And what was it? The total 2.6 almost between?
Well, that's a 2.6 degree switch between the two sensors, but the temperature difference is at the smallest 1.2. So that's 3 times any possible variance of the sensors. So
and when we put together that video, that's going to be very important to lay out how infallible basically the experiment was put together, right? That was the thing, to get this built the right way. And I think you did that very, very well.
I won't say infallible, but hopefully it's sufficiently robust to not argue the nature of what the results are demonstrating. It's the tolerance of the equipment and the significance of the readings still demonstrates an effect quite happily and significantly still.
Yeah, that's very significant.
It's the switch that's crazy, man. I mean, look at that. That's over a really short amount of time. And these two sensors are, let's say, a foot apart, 12 inches apart. You've seen the equipment. It's
the switch makes it, doesn't it? The switch definitely makes it. Yeah. It's a huge gap, really. You know, it's a lot.
It's the fact that they both follow the same, they reverse their trend as well, that's significant. If one got slightly cooler or they did, you know what I mean? But the reversal it's almost duplicated. One gets cooler by the same, do you know what I mean? And the way they cross over, it's very significant. And that's why I highlighted that part of the graph, just to kind of show you.
The double verification.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Okay. The other point that you can see on there is what I also did is at the point of switchover, I took the dome off, okay, of the other sensor. And you can see that one is slowly coming down. And it's very strange. And I think that's because it was quite insulated from the environment, but it's not as rapid, the switch. And that's worth some critical appraisal as well. That the yellow one, and these are why I do these things, you know, why isn't that one as rapid as the purple? And you say but it's still significant, and it still kind of gets below to the point of the air temperature. So there's more experiments to do. I wouldn't be submitting a paper yet. Do you know what I mean? I've got a lot more bits and bobs to do, and I'm looking outside, guys, but it's cloudy. Damn.
What a shock.
Yeah, it's doing me head in.
Yeah, I bet.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
All that
there you
work.
go. So that's this week's update on Moonlight 9, I think that one, isn't it?
Well, sweet. Yes, that's just awesome. I mean, between experiments on the plane and these Moonlight experiments, we're really adding some notches to our belt.
Well, to me, that is quite. I'm like I say, I wouldn't publish a paper, but to anybody of any brain that has any kind of scientific reasoning, those are results that, you know, these are kind of experiments that we are taught to do as kids at school that prove certain things to us. And that was the point of it. It's very basic, but the way things react is clear, and that crossover is quite clear. And now, if you think, you know, there's nothing complicated there, but what it clearly demonstrates is there is a cooling effect. Do you know what I mean? And the only possible explanation is that sheet of Lego somehow is acting and is warming up the other sensor. And the standard scientific explanation is that it's cloud cover that creates a radiant heat as it bounces back any moonlight that hits first. So any area that is actually under cloud gets double the moonlight. It's slightly warmer. Well, realistically, there's no additional moonlight being bounced off of a bit of Lego that's corrugated as well. Do you know what I mean? So the standard explanation, I think, is negated, and that's my only bit so far, because the compactness of the experiment is the point. They're living in the same environment. Cloud cover is irrelevant if there is a bit of cloud and there isn't. And we've got experiments where there is cloud cover and we see that it's not as intense, the effect, but it is still there because the ambient light is from the moon and not the sun. So there is a cooling effect generalized from, I'm stretching it a bit, but in terms of the data I've got so far, but yeah, they're my beliefs, guys, you know, not necessarily the data I've got yet. So
Adam, you always have an ear to the ground. Anything else happening this week on Flat Earth that you wanted to share before we hit the hour?
There's one bit that I'd like to just highlight, Dr. Zach. We mentioned it last week with regards to Flat Earth Math and his debate with Antonio Subirats and the power cables of it, Lake
Pontchartrain.
Thank you. I wanted to say Pochettino, which is the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, but that was all I did in my head.
Now you're swearing. Stop that. No.
I'm a Forest fan, Tone, so I've got, you know, I thought it was really interesting. Him and somebody else that used some really good visual proofs on a small scale and big scale to explain what we were all debating, what we were seeing. We were very dubious about both proofs, but I thought he produced a nice rebuttal to a lot of everybody's conjecture. I'll send a link, Josh, for you to put it in the
absolutely
after show stuff, because I thought that was really good, Dr. Zach's response to that. There was that one talking about homemade experiments. There was another one which was by Nick at Phuket World, where he's looking at we alluded to gravity in the accelerometers and stuff, and he uses an egg in 2 jugs of water, one which has had a load of salt put in it, making it more dense, and he demonstrates how the egg floats, and one sinks in the normal water and then puts it in and kind of dilutes it a little bit, and the egg kind of attains a level buoyancy.
Kind of makes me think about what you just said, man. These experiments we knew when we were kids, they work to tell us very important details about the liquids that we were testing, but yet as adults we're ridiculed by them and told, like, go take your shit elsewhere because we have scientists and university degrees and peer-reviewed papers, and go spout your nonsense elsewhere. Go get a job, do something, you know. It's just so backwards.
On the front of backwards, that brings me to the point of it. I get his point, but I'm struggling with it, and it alludes to the point that, to give a shout out to Nick there, that maybe I'm going to try and contact him, but also to give him a shout out and hopefully get him on the show to discuss some of his stuff, because he's a lot more eloquent than me. And some of the stuff is really, really intelligent, the way he makes you think. So I think it'd be a great bloke to have on. And this egg in the water one is really messing with the head, because what it's demonstrating is there is no effect by gravity, because the parameters we move are easy. We dilute the water and it moves by this much, and there doesn't appear to be a point where big G is involved in the equation of how this egg moves. And it should do, because realistically, as the egg goes from the top to the bottom, even if we're just varying the density, then, you know, the egg is slightly nearer to the center of the earth as it gets halfway down the jug. So
you know what you just
it should be in the equation, is my point.
You know what you just said about Big G, Adam? I'll bring you back to something you told me a year ago almost, and it was like fascinating at the time because I'm not a math guy, but you said that gravity in mathematical form is only used as an additive and a subtraction. So like in all these wonderful formulas, you find gravity where at the beginning and the end, it just zeroes itself out. It's gone. It's there. It's gone. It's just like a zero. Like, so if I look back and now I apply this, it's useless. They just stick it in there because it's gravity and it's magic. Is that not correct? That in most of the vector and linear equations for velocities and all that stuff, that gravity gets taken out or canceled out almost like a fraction?
I think most of those it's ignored totally. But like I'm saying, then this is the point of the equation, and this is why I want to speak to him, because what he's demonstrating, I think, is quite profound mathematically, because it should be there. So actually, it should be measurable. What we're seeing, it shouldn't be linear. There shouldn't be a linear line of salinity in terms of the height of the egg, because gravity should increase its effect, if only marginally, as the salinity decreases and the egg gets lower. Because it's lower, then it should go just that little bit lower, because the pull of the Earth is just that little bit bigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
On a ball, right?
Yeah, that's the argument, that if it was on a ball and gravity did exist, then that was what you would hypothesize the experiment to reveal. And I think that's what he's showing, that it's a linear effect.
It reminds me about another thing. This show today, like Paul, Walt's on a plane right now doing a phone test and going to try and talk to. We have come forward with so many exciting branches of experiments. Where is the one baller that's going to prove, okay, gravity, or is going to prove the motion of the Earth, or is going to prove the curvature? Like, we have put up countless and more by the week, but I'm looking for the hero in the Globers, but there's none to be found.
Well, that's because you're looking at it all wrong. You have, millions of people. They're going to tell you that LIGO detected gravity waves. Boom, proved gravity. Cell phones have an accelerometer in there. Boom, proved gravity. I saw ships sail over the edge, sail over the curve. Boom, I proved your curvature. I mean, they have their magic bullets fired all the time. The problem is the magic is all in their mind. I mean,
what we need to do, Josh, you're absolutely right. What we need to do, though, is we need to refine our waking up, and we need to be able to throw a bomb at someone and wake them up right away, and then shake them and say, okay, here, this is what's what. Here we go. Let's go. Because that's the hard part, is breaking their head in a good way.
I think there's a lot more real world connectivity at the moment. I mean, I notice there's a lot more gatherings happening all the time of flat earthers. Like, say, here in the UK, there's one in Blackpool soon. There's one coming up in Leamington Spa next month. Groups of people actually getting together. So people are waking up. It is a collective thing. It is getting bigger, and people are coming. I think the biggest thing now is to move it offline and move it into the real world. I think it's really important.
Great. Yeah, that's so true. Get it offline and into that's the only way. We talked about it here on the realm, that it'll spread is eye to eye, face to face, because that's when you'll get the honesty and that acknowledgement between.
Yeah, I think the people in control, they're really happy while we're here, just on Twitter and YouTube communities and things like that. But when we become the masses and we're there in person, that's when they're going to worry, I think.
I think it's starting, mate, isn't it, with the sign that's appeared at the airport? You know what I mean? It's
and we got to bring up that billboard too before we go.
Yeah. So that's the
billboard is great. I mean, it's on a really busy bit of road as well, from what I see on the video and stuff like that. So everyone's sat in traffic jams, and it's coming up between two insurance ads, which is quite interesting. But, yeah, fantastic. Let's, however it happens. I mean, they have the sticker campaign over here as well, don't they? There's flat Earth stickers going up everywhere. Yeah, definitely.
I think there's also some flat Earth. There's a gent in Britain doing flat Earth cubes. So for those who like having fun with their printers, he's making.
What's that? What are flat Earth cubes?
Oh, I'll try and find the guy. I'll try and find his link now because it deserves a shout out. Because this guy's like, I think he was in advertising or something, and he's taken some of his advertising stuff and showed people how to just print it out sheets, and then basically with 2 bits of sellotape make these cubes that say flat Earth and think or something like that, and just throw them around bars and pubs that people will pick up.
Hey guys, it's can you guys hear me? This is Paul again. I think his channel's called Question Everything.
That's it. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, I was just looking at his stuff recently too. Yeah, flat Earth cubes. Check it out.
Yeah, fair play to him. I thought that's and you know what I mean. Innovative stuff is starting, but Paul, you know a bit more, don't you, about this billboard than us lot?
Yeah, well, just I heard about it right before it went up, and because I've been listening in on a lot of the Infinite Plane Society's streams, and was involved in some of the chat, quote unquote, chat parties and visitations. So, yeah, the whole idea is kind of what I talked about. We want to get as many people, and I support it. Obviously, it's going to get bad press, and you're going to get jokes, and you see the news reports, and everybody's having a laugh, but at the end of the day, there's going to be people out there that see that didn't even know it was a thing, and they're going to go home and start doing some research. So it's just a matter of letting people know. I think that flat Earth is a thing, and that there's people that believe that, and hopefully they'll be like some of us that were just curious enough to start wondering how anybody could think that. Good things might happen.
Bring it on. I prefer a straight fight to all this sneaking around. Do you know what I mean? It's.
I'm a Star Wars guy, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right, so shall we have a cup of tea or a coffee and then talk about Mr. Brahma? Exciting stuff for hour 2.
Yeah, okay. Cup of tea sounds.
Are you going to stick around for this? I need a brew. Are you sticking around for this, Paul? Have you seen all this, or?
No, I have not. So I'm just kind of doing some work here in the background. But yeah, I'm going to stick around and listen for sure.
Then your input will be double the value, then, mate. If you're neutral to this, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear how you react to some of this information.
Okay, cool. Yeah, look forward to it.
And Karen, if you're out there listening and you want to hop on, come on, girl. Now's the time.
Yeah, we need you, Kaz. Come on, girl.
Yeah.
See you guys in a few.
Sweet. We'll just take a little musical interlude and refresh our beverages.
A little density break, Josh?
I reckon we can.
Maybe a little audio density.
By density, you meant gravity. That density.
You are mine.
All right, yeah, just let me double check all my connections, make sure I'm plugged into the right ones, and we'll play some gravity music. All right. See, I knew I'd get it eventually. All right.
We're up pretty high, our heads are almost in the clouds, and their feet are chained to the ground with their chains of misery. They've got a hold of me, they won't let go of me. Let go of me. They might have gravity on their side,
There's a lot of flat earth music out there, and I know that's not specifically a flat earth song, but man, does that apply in so many ways to those of us in the flat earth. Really, really dig that song. So
Yeah, I really like it, Josh, as well. Really good song, mate.
You see, and there's the bonus of John not being here this week, because you wouldn't get the same result. So I love it. I've just been singing it with the wife. So, I do enjoy it. I think there's some nice lyrics in there that ring true with me, and it's original.
it is original. Well,
Sure is. So let's talk Brahma. Tony. I'm excited, man. Tell me what's going on, brother.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, maybe you should give a little bit about how you all met him and everything like that first. I mean, obviously, I was introduced by listening to your FRINGE-CAST on the Friday. So, but yeah, go on. So John. So we know the background. We know that he wants to have this expedition to the barrier, as he calls it, and he's set up this fund, and they want $1 million, £1 million. And I don't know. I came at it from a very skeptical. I listened to it all, and obviously, like all of you, quite skeptical to begin with, but fascinated as well. Here's a man telling us that we're correct in many ways, but very wrong in a lot of other ways. And he purports to have a lot of answers that we don't have. So it's definitely worth a listen, isn't it? So I think so this week anyway, we've gone. You had the interview, which is fantastic, and people have spoke to him individually and stuff. So where I am at with it now is, obviously I spoke to him a few times over the last couple of weeks. This week, last week, and
To kind of
like you said earlier, it's hard to vet, but really,
That's a good point, John. Yeah, and you said you spoke to him a couple of times, and all of us have spoke to him now at least once or twice in a number of ways, and I think that's important, that what we are doing is vetting him from a critical point of view, as critical as we can be, without being rude and just saying you're a charlatan and a sham, sod off. But we are trying our best to be as objective as we can.
Definitely, it's becoming more compelling for me personally. Anyway, it's definitely becoming more compelling.
Has been for me as well. Yeah. I think you're right, Tone. I mean, who wants to give a stab at kind of letting the listeners who may not have heard the kind of sort of basic idea about what John has brought forward to us, who may not have heard the interview? It's been too long.
Could Josh, is there any chance you can just play John's video
as
a starter for 10? Yeah, because that's saves a lot of waffle.
Yeah.
Because it does summarize what he's trying to achieve, and also is the starting point of all our questions. Do you know what I mean? So that people understand we've started from this point, and we've spent a lot of time.
Because even the video is quite fantastic as well, so it's definitely worth watching, I think, for people.
I mean, I can tell personally, just I can't speak for anybody else, but just my little conversations with him on some of the areas, and that's why we're all different. We have different attack points, and I mean that in a nice way. But the things I asked him about were in relations to some movies and films, and I've been doing a plethora of research into those, and they all line up. I mean, the story's been told over and over and over and over. I mean, I think I found ones that, next time I chat, he might not be even aware of that the same story is embedded in there. So just for me personally, I've gotten more and more confident, as well as listening to the reactions from the rest of the team here, and eagerly hearing later, once we play the intro, sort of what sort of vetting we've done individually and as a team, because that's what's really important, is to vet it in a sort of, giving you a chance sort of way. And I think that's probably part of why he came to us, because we're not just one entity, one source.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got from him when I spoke to him and stuff. Yeah. Did you find the video?
Yep, I believe I found it.
Yeehaw.
Performs best in the fire, Josh. Way to be.
All the way screen sharing it with you guys. Maybe a little difficult, but you can hear it, and you've all seen it before, so I'm not even going to bother.
We don't need to see it.
Hey guys, welcome to the Antarctic expedition. I'll keep this short and simple. I think there has been enough discussion, debates, and whatnot between the flat earth truthers and, let's generalize, everyone else. I think the only way to end this discussion or debate or the mockery and the constant jokes is to actually mount an expedition to the Antarctic. And it's not impossible. To tell you, I have been there 3 times. I have resources, we have ships, we have people on the inside who are willing to help. And it's not gonna cost us a lot. Well, if you are counting it in human money, then yes, maybe if I say it's gonna cost $1 million, you're gonna think that's a lot of money. But if you think that's just the cost of 10 Tesla Model S cars, and people spend collectively way more than this on personal luxuries, I'm looking for real hardcore truthers to back me up on this project and help me raise these funds. My identity will not be revealed until before we start the expedition. All safety and everything has been taken care of. Now obviously, if you can contribute $100,000, I would love to give you a seat, a personal seat to the edge on this expedition. I will say this, I'm not going to discuss about this project a lot. Anyone who's backing this, please send me your email address. My contact details are there on the blog. Send me your email address or your contact information, and I will get in touch with you with further details. But let's say this. With this mission, we will put an end to this debate once and for all. So I'm looking for your support, and I'm looking for your backing, and I hope to God that we can reveal the truth. May the Yahweh be with you. Thank you.
So, there it is. That's what he's proposing.
Powerful stuff, isn't it? Powerful stuff.
Yeah, it's
Great stuff. Great stuff.
very interesting. And that's what got our interest, isn't it? But there is no detail in there, guys. There's no detail, and that's what we've been hopefully trying to put some meat around the bones on with him, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's not been very easy at all, because according to his story, he is at the top. He and his 14 let's say, cohorts are at the top of this 120 people. I believe, Adam, you asked him if that group of 120, if they were represented by a flag that had the AE map, the AE projection on it. And I think he answered with an affirmative to that question. So I'm sort of basing that on the idea that he's working, that 120 is working for the UN. And
I got a little bit more detail on that when I spoke to him on Sunday. And I had to write it down because I said to him, I actually said to him, I know I'm going to get loads of questions on these numbers, so let me write them down. So the 120 that he relates to is those in the operational front line. Okay, so that is basically the sailors, the crews of the subs and the boats, and some of the soldiers, naval, so whatever they're called. The 14 he refers to are some of the more senior people within his group, within that 120 on the front line. And the 400 that sometimes people refer to is the whole group, and that also includes people from other for outside of the institution he alluded himself to as in the UN, that do additional monitoring and other different functions and other scientific functions. I didn't go into much more detail, but I hope that helps.
That's cleared up a lot, yeah. So I asked him that question, and obviously he told me 400, and I thought that was an anomaly. But now you've answered that. That's field day, and it's good. So
again, this will sound like I'm making excuses for him, and I'm not. I'm just providing the information from the answers for the question that I asked, and this disparity that, because for people that are listening, we've all been independently interviewing this guy and then also chatting amongst ourselves.
And that's the exact reason, isn't it, to cancel out these disparities and stuff. That's exactly why we've been doing it,
And I spoke to John about this, about our not cynicalness, but integrity of inquisition, for want of a fatty phrase. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how we're all approaching this from a very non-biased view, and that's not chucking ourselves in believing we're off on a trip, because I ain't going anyway, and it's not also ridiculing the man or being rude. Do you know what I mean? That we're appraising the evidence that he's given us, and there's stuff to come with that, isn't there? But the point I was going to make there is, I was questioning John in terms of his provision of stories and evidence as he's talking to other people, and the reason I was given for the disparities you may hear, 120, 140, using 400, using this, is that it's important that any of the conversations they have aren't identical, and there's never one straight story, was the impression I was given. As to being military trained, you like to mix your stories up, not even give answers, just to keep it different. So I'm not military trained. I don't know the validity of that, but that's the answer I was given when I challenged John on some of the points that we'd all been raising with regards to that.
I was wondering, James, how you felt, or what your thoughts were, with John talking about when you asked him about religion and Yahweh and things like that, and he said about the hierarchy of gods, etc.
Great question. I don't remember the hierarchy. Maybe I didn't really get into that with him per se, but I definitely played to my beliefs of one creator, And he definitely said that, you know, the Old Testament, the way things went down are the way they went down. So that kind of lends me to some relief, some hope, some faith, but also a lot more questions. Yeah, which I'm sure kind of for you too, Tone?
Yes, I find it really interesting. Yeah, definitely.
What was the kind of God's part that he told you about?
Okay, so when I spoke to him earlier last week, and we were talking about that, and I asked specifically about that question that you asked him, and his answer, where he said about the Old Testament and stuff, and I asked about that, and because he also alluded to like the Norse gods and stuff like that. I think in the interview he said about Thor and stuff like that. Yeah, and so when I was speaking to him, I asked, and he alluded to the Norse gods again, but also to like many other gods, with Yahweh being at the top, and there being like a hierarchical structure of gods. So, you know, all the big religions in the world all have their own way of talking about the same sort of, you know, the same divine creator, if you like, you know. But then he said there was like a hierarchy of gods underneath Yahweh, you know. I thought it was really interesting. So
could these be the mighty men? Could those be the Nephilim, the other gods? Could they be, you know, the?
Well, like I say, I don't have the answers, but like I say, it raises a lot more questions, doesn't it? You know.
I would suggest, James, that he's not talking about men of renown. He's talking about gods, as in the way you would understand it from a Stargate point of view. From my perspective is different to your guys. Do you know what I mean? And as I'm trying to comprehend what he's saying, it is almost a bit Stargate-y in terms of.
No, I mean that's the way he spoke to me, Adam. I mean he spoke to me like he said that, you know, how do you put it? I'm trying to think how he put it. He said that there were gods and there were you know, not men of renown, but almost I don't know how you say, like beings, like you say in a Stargate sort of way, you know, like how people would perceive aliens or something like that, you know, but in a strange way. Yeah.
He kind of alluded that they were the entities to me when I questioned him about the actual Nephilim and the entities perhaps that are passing through the barrier and the entities that were in the ships around 9/11, etc. Was the same people. I said, are these the people that were murdered, you know, in the book of Enoch? They're the sons and the children of the fallen. And he said, yes. So that was quite interesting to me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's interesting to me is I've got 2 pages of notes from what I asked him, and this is nothing like that at all that I even thought of. Mine are very different. It's very good the way we've all interviewed from very different and detailed points.
And I think that begs another point that when you talk to John, his words are very carefully chosen. He doesn't tell you anything. And the only thing he says is the answer to your question. And even those words are very measured. So it's really kind of hard to get a lot of information out of him because he's just not very free with the information. You have to ask him directly exactly what you want to know and hope that it's going to be something that he can actually answer.
Yeah, I'd say we can count on our one hand the number of times he's offered us information straightforward, which was great information, by the way. But if we actually go back and really think, it's probably only 4 or 5 times he's actually done that, Josh. Good observation.
So, which I guess brings us to the picture.
Well, when you bring the picture up, I don't know if others of you have the email as well, but I've got an email of a description of the picture, so I'd love to read it out to you.
Mind reading? Yeah. When we put it up, would you mind reading it?
Well, this is going to call into question whether or not we put it up, I think.
Stick it up, man. I spoke to John about this.
Did you?
And because, but shortly before me speaking to him, he'd released the picture, and Karen had been in touch and shared it with me, and she wasn't sure whether we could share it or not. So that was one of the direct questions I asked him. And he said, yeah, he's happy to hear it. It's not a picture he's taken. It's a picture that somebody else took. I think he's happy for me to share his description. It was a very wealthy lady that was lucky enough and was allowed to the edge to witness this and took this photo. So that's and it's not his. It's nothing to do with him. So,
Tony, you want to go ahead and read that description that he gave you?
Sure. Just let me bring it up here. Just bear with me. Okay, so have you got the picture up now?
I don't have it up yet now. I'm going to wait to kind of
so
debut that.
I'll wait till you put the picture up so people can see it.
No,
Right.
Josh is being cinematic. You've got to start.
Good man, Josh.
I was building suspense.
All right, sorry. Do you want me to carry on then? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Narrate, Tone. Narrate.
Okay. All right. Okay. My apologies. Okay. What you see is a multi-dimensional force field of energy, which we haven't been able to crack or pass till lately, other than in a few instances. You have to excuse me because the writing's a little bit ickity-pickety. You can see the sunlight hitting the top of the layers, while the closer to the ground, ice, it feels more like water when touched. Yes, you can touch it, and it's a dense field. This is the bit that intrigued me. People have experienced calming effects due to the positive vibrations of this energy field. We estimate it to be at least 1,000 miles wide, if not more. No electronics work properly or at all the closer you get to it. The magnetic field is disrupted, which again doesn't help when it comes to carrying out any experiments. Ships, and when he says ships, I think he's talking in terms of what we class as UFOs, sort of thing. Ships have been observed to emerge and pass or travel through freely, which are of a higher technology still out of our grasp. And he says, other than scientific, we know this place would be of a high spiritual importance, just given the effects it has on mind and body. It cures you instantly of anything you might be suffering from medically. We don't know how, but it's estimated that this is pure energy defying all laws of physics known to man so far. There you go.
Now that's pretty intense. I mean, that's...
Yeah, very.
Wow. Just that, eh? Anything else?
So this is why I wanted to...
Just a little bit of information, eh? Yeah. So.
And this is why I wanted to build some suspense, because we are probably one of the best flat Earth shows that you've never heard of. I mean, we kind of broke this thing with John Brahma, and still nobody's really talking about it. And what we're about to show you is what is reported to be the first picture of the edge. So when we talk about the flat Earth and they want to say, show us a picture of the edge, this could, in theory, be the picture we can start spreading around. So that
You saw it here first, folks.
That's right, and you saw it here first. Just keep that in mind where this picture came from.
If it's real and if it's all genuine, and I'm leaning more towards that a little bit, but if it is, then it's out. It's really it's outstanding. It's amazing. It's it's a wonderful thing.
So it's up. People can now see it. I don't think it's quite live yet, but it should be coming along any moment now. It's really intense. When I first saw it, all I could think was, well, I could probably make that in Photoshop. I could probably... I mean, making water digitally is not that hard anymore. This is kind of... in this day and age, it's not that hard to make fake water. You can watch videos on how to do it with video editing software all day long. So as intense as the picture is, it doesn't necessarily prove anything other than it's a really screwy picture.
And what were your thoughts after? Because I'm not trained in Photoshop. So what were your thoughts after looking at it for a long time and stuff like that? Have you run it through any programs or anything like that to see if it was shopped or anything?
Okay, yeah, we did a bit, didn't we,
Well,
Josh?
here's the issue: is even the version I got was sort of downloaded off of Twitter, so that particular JPEG image is probably just going to come up as a flat, all one layer image anyway. I'm not trained in Photoshop. I don't know jack squat about much of anything, but I would think that you'd almost need an original to be able to discern exactly what was what. I don't know. I think I think the quality is too degraded, having been shared
Josh,
around so much.
You decry your knowledge, mate. So I sent it off to my brother-in-law, luckily, who's a graphic designer, sent it to him, and that's the exact appraisal he gave. The image quality is too small. We've got a reverse image of it, haven't we, somewhere that you may want to stick up?
I got emailed in. So would that be bigger? Would that be better?
Hopefully. I've since contacted, and this goes again to us researching credibility. So obviously we got that information. We realised that the quality of the image is too small to analyse, and it's also too small for us to use promotionally because it's such a low quality. So I got in touch with him and asked for a higher quality. I've been told he's out at the moment in terms of being able to access this stuff to send it to us, but in the next week we'll get the proper full res picture, is my understanding. So if you've got a better one there that he's maybe sent you differently, it might be better than the...
Yeah, well, I'll forward it to you, but it sounds like it's probably the same one. I just received it in a different format, so, but I'll forward it to you, Adam. Yeah.
So we are having it checked. I mean, Mr. Savage ran a Google check, didn't he, to reverse image check on it, and there was nothing came up. So that's interesting, in of itself.
Yes, it is. Have you got the picture ready to share?
Yeah, it's up. It's sharing. They're looking at it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Fantastic.
just to recap, I know, Paul, you're probably busy doing stuff. You were questioning about where this picture came from. We had a previous guest on, John Brahma, who claims to work for the force that is down in Antarctica, protecting it from any would-be wanderers. And he says he's been to the edge and he's trying to create this expedition, raising $1 million to do it, in an attempt to sort of validate himself, because we're all pretty skeptical and weren't too quick to accept his story. He's been trying to leak out a little bit of information here and there to give him some validation. And this is a picture that he sent us. He claims it was taken by a wealthy woman who paid to go to the edge and see this. And while she was there, she snapped this picture, and he's forwarded it along to us. So that's what we are looking at now, is what he claims to be the edge. Basically a field of energy that is dense, and it's like water.
1,000 miles long, approximately. With healing properties.
Walt has done a little bit of digging on what we're seeing there and the perspectives, because we're all looking at it, and some of us were seeing a big angled, almost pyramid angled slope at the front of us, and apparently what we're seeing is a very, very, very high wall even at the front of the shot, and that's about 100. What was the distance? I can't remember. James, do you remember what Walt said was the distance to the horizon? It was
It's actually almost a K.
Sorry,
kilometer.
to the... Yeah, and then the mountains in the distance. Yeah, sorry.
The distance are a mile away. Those little black rocks on the left there, about a mile away.
Yeah.
And I guess my question, I don't know if you guys are maybe telling. So it's 1,000 miles wide, this raw energy wall boundary.
Yeah.
Does that mean the entryway is 1,000 miles long into the other land?
That was the the way that I perceived it to be from what he was saying, but I don't know that to be a fact. I can read it to you again, that little bit. Let's try and see it here. So it says, people have experienced calming effects due to the positive vibrations of this energy field. We estimate it to be at least 1,000 miles wide, if not more.
Paul's doing good chat with Alba some good stuff with Alba in the chat. The pair of them are having a good conversation, and Paul's got some questions. And are you there, Paul?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, so I was just throwing them out in the chat.
They're relevant, mate. Stick them in.
Yeah, don't make me type.
Yeah, I can't see the chat either. I'm using the phone, so please come on in and talk. Yeah.
My apologies. You guys may have touched on it, but I'm multitasking here, so I hope I didn't miss it. But if you did touch on it, I apologize. So have we requested the original picture so we can scrutinize, with Photoshop forensics?
On its way. That's what's been asked already. Okay. Yeah.
And so is anybody speculating on who this quote unquote wealthy woman is? That was my other question.
Irrelevant to me.
Yeah, it is. Admittedly, it's irrelevant, but he didn't provide any other details other than that.
No. I was surprised they got woman. If I'm being honest, the way John talks, for him to divulge that level of information freely for no apparent reason was surprising. That he would narrow your search down by 50% instantly. It's quite. Do you know what I mean? That was strange.
Yeah. Telling.
Yeah. So has John been to the quote unquote edge, or been to the same area that the picture was taken? Was he there when this picture was taken? Is he claiming that?
No, I think he's claiming he is not connected in any way to this picture, which is why he can share it. I think he thinks that if it could in any way be traced back to him, he would not have released it. Is my understanding.
No, apparently he says that photo is available. Now, whether a Google search shows it up isn't necessarily his point, but he does say it's available, and therefore he isn't constrained by it.
Very interesting.
That is interesting. Says it's available, but
I didn't know that.
You see, these sadly, I don't ask spiritual questions. I was being.
I only asked the one. Right?
Yeah. It was, and that leads on to what I was asking. Realistically, guys, and that's the majority of what I took notes on, which is, well, what do you want from us, John? Because this is all lovely. And before I go on to that, I'd like to hear what Paul's thoughts are and that, because
well, just overall, obviously I'm skeptical like anybody else, and probably more skeptical about anything like this than I ever would be, before this time. Picture's rather interesting, but I'm just processing it. I'm curious how far along he is in his search, funding wise.
I can answer that.
Yeah. Anthony told me a bit about that as well. So carry on.
I don't think that's relevant particularly anymore. I think there's a commitment, confirm their risk is probably what I would say he's looking for, not necessarily the amounts he was looking for initially. From my understanding, there are certain people that have contacted John who are more than able to fund the project in its entirety on its own. And that's led to some other opportunities which we can talk about later. But I don't think necessarily the money per se is in any way a deciding factor anymore. It's covered, I think was his phrase.
That's what swung me to believing it a little bit more this week. I was the same as you, Paul. I was very skeptical at the beginning, But I think that whole money issue really clouded a lot of it. But
Exactly.
after he said that to me this week about the money, I was a lot more comfortable with the idea. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it changes everything, but it certainly does change the conversation. So what? I guess I'm curious now, Adam. What's he want?
Well, it probably alludes to your question in the chat, which is the one that I wanted to come in on, which was you asking us, can I stick this out and stick it out to the community? And that's John's biggest request and why he's contacted us. He feels we're credible. We're not, we're not in any way, in terms of we're not anything other than a bunch of guys that were talking honestly. And that's what I think he wanted his first Ferrari into the community to be, an honest appraisal. And I think he's got that. Because none of us
he did try to go to some of the bigger players in the flat earth community, didn't he? And he was rebuffed by them all. You should point that out, I think.
There are a number of people that I asked him about that he has approached previously. And I think from those responses, I think that's why he decided to look at us and ask the approach that him and the 14, as he's described it, want to take now, which is to can we stick this out to the community? And he this to be put out to the community to raise questions, ask questions. Don't be insulting, but be as cynical as you want, but be respectful that, actually, if this is true, there's a man there that's actually possibly risking a lot in a way that I can't comprehend.
Risking everything.
Yeah, but he is inviting your comment and your thoughts and a lot of other stuff down the line, and I'll get to that in a bit. But at the moment, it's, look at this photo. Here's a bit of evidence. Are people interested enough to take him seriously for him to continue? And for the other people that do want to release this information, to take it seriously. I'm doing my best to stay neutral, but also present his opinion, which I think is what I've tried to take from it, from my quite detailed questioning. And I wasn't brutal, but I did try to ask pertinent questions, and that doesn't make sense, or this makes sense. Can you please explain? And as Tone alludes to, and as I said to John, I'm happy enough now to not necessarily believe you, mate, but take it forward and stick myself there and describe what you're doing and ask other people to please come and get involved, whatever that is. So that's kind of where he's at now.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I hate to pop in the middle there. I am checked in and sitting down waiting for my plane. I have a few seconds before I have to get on board, but I caught the end of what you were saying, Adam. I also had a chance to talk with John for a time this week, and after our conversation, I'm basically the same place you are. I'm still very hopefully skeptical, hoping this all works out, knowing that there's a big hump to get over before we get to that end part of it that he's so excited about, that we are too. I myself discussed that picture at length. I don't know how much you guys have had a chance to talk about it, but he and I discussed the picture he shared with us. Just spoke about what it actually shows, that kind of thing. What have you guys discussed with that?
We said you were the expert, Walt, so you've got to
we're all
discuss
happy
it.
to hear what you know.
Well, basically, he said that what we're seeing there, the bottom part that looks like it could be water or ice, is very heavy-duty ice. It's where they're standing and set up with a huge wide-angle lens. That dark outcropping of what looks like maybe a cliff or just a little small rock outcropping is actually mountainous. He said it is huge. It's far in the distance. That's why you get that effect of the wall looking like it goes into the distance. That end point that we thought might be a cliff edge is just perspective disappearing into the distance. As it humps up to the right, he said that is the edge. That is the barrier, the boundary. It's liquid, a type of water possibly. in their orientation, he was told it was a natural phenomena that has been there forever, and that's something that they're studying. And that's basically what they were told. He said you can put your hand into it. It's like liquid. It has resistance like liquid, but at certain times of the day, you can't even see what you're seeing in that picture. Certain times of the day, it's almost like a big concrete wall, which also ties into that black and white picture that's been around for some time now from the Antarctica picture releases that show that cliff area and there's a gray wall behind it. He said that's pretty accurate to what it looks like when I described the picture. I couldn't find it in my files to show him, but when I described it to him, he said, yeah, it literally looks like a wall at times of the day going up into the sky. Where it separates. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on that, mate, when I was looking at the picture, I had the perspective I had was the blue line of the ice water, and then behind it was a mountain. Now, when you was talking to him, you corrected me, and he said that what we think is the mountain behind it is actually the mountain on top of that.
Right. He said as that liquid goes up into the sky, as he said, as it goes up, it turns into that icy looking, snowy looking area that we thought was like a cliff overhang or maybe inside of a cave edge or something. Like you say, it looks mountainous, but it's not. It's actually part of the boundary, part of the barrier. And he said it changes all the time. Sometimes, like I said, it looks like concrete. Sometimes you can see the two different parts like you're seeing there. He said they had to wait quite a while to get that picture to show the light just right and to show the angles just right to kind of get a little bit of everything, not just a big gray wall or just a big, liquid that could be maybe just water at a weird angle. He wanted to show, like, with the picture that had a lot going on. And that one definitely, from what he's describing, does. I did a few little tiny adjustments on the one I had. I know he's working on trying to get us a better quality picture. That's kind of a copy of a copy of a copy. And my little program, I did the best enhancements I could. I sent it over. I don't know if it ever got to you guys. I'm, again, running, so.
We need to get someone like Z Proxy or to look at it. He's actually
all right.
in the
He's
chat.
Photography. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Get him on that.
He says in the chat it might be a 2D render into CGI. So we'll definitely
it's possible.
Get our experts on it when we.
That's what we needed. That's definitely what we need.
Damn airport announcements.
Sorry, hang on one second.
That's all right. Travelers will travel. Not to get too Masonic.
Just a gateway for another experiment anyway, so it's all
right.
good.
That's right.
Indeed. She finished. Okay, yeah. Apparently we're about to get all lined up here. So if I can access the system, I don't know. I don't know how this airline works with the onboard Wi-Fi. Some do, some don't. If I can get back on, I will. If not, then I will try to check back in for the after show in Houston.
Have a good flight, Walt.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. And Tone is still here, it looks like. And Paul, thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all showing up. Adam, James, Josh. John's not here. I thought he was here. Maybe I misunderstood. Well, everybody who's not with us today, we miss y'all. And
have a safe flight.
Talk to y'all soon.
Have a safe flight, and don't forget to get your bubble level app out.
It's out, brother. I got it running right now. I forgot to tell you, I leveled it. I leveled it at the counter, and it's running right now in my bag. In fact, when I put it in the bin, the lady was like, "What are you doing?" And I told her. She was just looking at me kind of like with one eyebrow up. All right.
All right, well, have a good flight.
You gave her a sticker as you were walking away, yeah? So.
Right. That's it. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, don't let your arms get tired.
Safe travels.
Sweet. So there it is.
I suppose, go on, sorry.
Does anybody know how high that wall is supposed to be? Did anybody ask John about any sort of dimensions? He just says into the sky. It just goes up.
Yeah, I didn't ask that.
I think we were told in the hundreds of feet was what we were alluded to. So, again, Walt was the expert. Walt did all the questioning on that. That was not. We need him to come back. He's back. Is he there? Is there, Walt? No, he's gone.
I think he's gone. But yeah. I don't know. That's crazy.
Um,
Oh, there he is,
It's
showing
quite
his
interesting
level.
stuff, isn't it? So, you know, quite like it to all happen.
yeah, it's so yeah. So just to finish that point, Paul. Yeah. What John does want is for the rest of the community to engage and contact him, send stuff to us. He's not fussed however it happens, but he would like and kind of there is other details about what he wants to happen down the line, but I think that's kind of the immediate thing is what he's hoping for is a reaction. So yeah, please stick it out there, mate.
Well, yeah, if you guys are okay with it, I'm happy to throw it out there, and you know, I mean, without much context, it'll get the typical, you know, CGI and doctored image, and you know, how do we know this isn't primary knowledge? This is secondary, tertiary knowledge, and that sort of stuff. But if he's expecting that sort of reaction, that's what he's going to get. You know.
Well, I think he's prepared for that, and I think so are we. We're not endorsing his trip. Well, certainly I'm not. I'm endorsing that what we're doing is reporting what we're being told in the most honest way we can. You know what I mean? As we're getting stuff each week, this is what we're putting out. Do you know what I mean? And that's all we can do.
Trying to find out truths, which is what you do all the time, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
Trying to find out the truth of what's going on around us.
On that, Josh, I've just stuck up the reverse image. I don't know if you can share that. It's in the Hangout chat. That might be worth looking at. My brother-in-law said it, you know, like he said, the image was so low, but the reverse image didn't reveal anything instantly obvious, was his statement.
Yeah, let me just download it. I'll pop it up on there. So what's going on with you, James? I haven't talked to you in forever. After you,
That's kind of what it feels like. No, I'm just muted talking to myself. No, I've just been trying, like you, kind of listening and kind of figuring out this whole thing with John and kind of seeing where maybe we can fit in and kind of trying to figure it out. It's been it's quite a new addition to the realm, eh?
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah. Other than that, I've been keeping a low pro. You and I share something in common. We both went camping a little while ago. You last weekend, me the weekend just passed, and it's always good to get out there and for me to see the wonderful creation that that God has made. You know, I love it. So yeah, I'm recharged, and I'm just so keen to work as a group and kind of discern what we need to discern and move this baby forward, as they say. Let's move the chains.
So I'm really interested, Adam, in what you said, that because I'm curious as to why he wants this to go public if he's got the backers already. Like, I'm curious as to why you'd want that backlash from social media, because it will be a backlash, as Paul alluded to. You know, it won't be nice, I don't think. So,
Firstly, I don't think he's bothered about a backlash. I think he's put himself out there that a backlash from social media is the smallest of the risks that is entailed in his thing. But the reason he's putting out there alludes to the second part of his plan, which is he's all very well and good, and these guys are engaging in this trip, and as I say, taking whatever associated risk people want to think they're taking. That's up for debate. But when they come back, their concern is that these 10 people that they're going to take come back with the best set of holiday snaps that anybody's ever got. But what's going to happen to this information? How is it going to be used? And that's the roadmap that he's talking about, and what's really important is how that data is going to be disseminated and protected. To further, I think something that's bigger from my speaking to him, to further a message that's probably bigger than flat Earth. Flat Earth proves something. But I think the message he's trying to get out there, and when you listen to some of John's stuff when he talked about what he felt when he saw the edge, the barrier, whatever, I think it's probably a little bit bigger than flat Earth. Whatever it is, do you get me? It's
it's something. That's what he alluded to when I spoke to him. It's something a lot deeper, something more spiritual, something a lot deeper.
And if I could cut in too, the reason is that now is the time, because with what's going on in Europe, with the level of false flags and misinformation, apparently they are shutting down access. So this could be our last opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of get that urgency and that sense of, I mean, for me, you know this, I'm very spiritual. This comes down to good and evil, and he knows that evil can't win, isn't going to win, and this is part of the plan. So up for that.
I've got answers on that, James, as well. That was some of the question I asked him about, because he had alluded to that certain political events were making things difficult, and he was wanting to go sooner rather than later, and some of the disparities that we'd had in answers from guys was different. And I've got a bit of clarity on that. I asked him a number of points and kind of got
to give you an idea. Hey, just on a side note, Adam, is in 2016, just last year there, while everyone was unveiling the flat Earth, new regulations and a large portion of the Ross Sea was put under treaty for fisheries and protected. So
that's a really, really large area of water as well.
Basically, the whole front of the sucker. So I mean, there are things and moves being made, and you know,
it was a New Zealand government, wasn't it, that did it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, I mean, you kind of couple that tone with, the fact that some of the very, very wealthy have been buying up a lot of land in Australia and New Zealand, specifically, just those key areas. So, and putting a lot of money into the type of mechanical sort of crafts and things kind of disguised as luxury mobiles, quite like we saw in his teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Timing is key. I'll say it again. Now is the time, and I feel it. Whether my faith says it or whether my gut or whoever's saying it, I believe it. Now is the time.
Yeah, I think you've only got to look at what's going on, like all around us, like you say, the false flags, the state of governments, the way they talk to each other, blah blah blah. The transhuman agenda, it's all coming to a head, isn't it? It's coming to a head quite quickly, quite rapidly. Not sounding like a doomsday sayer or something, but it's.
Well, I don't think, mate, from John's answer, that's necessarily true, or maybe it's probably a bit more pessimistic than the way he was talking. He's saying that he's ready to go any time between now and October.
Yeah.
Now, after that, the structure of the political climate doesn't mean he won't be able to go, but it'll probably be approaching that time after October before he'll be able to say what and when they can go again. Now, whether that's it was all up in the air, he says, because it's very fluid, the political game at the moment, to summarize. So they're the timescales he's talking about. So whether he's going to go early this year, at some point this year, or later on, next year, I don't know. He's very keen, from my understanding, to get it done and dusted, and
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to see what happens next then, won't we? Watch this space, everybody. Let us know what you think of the photograph.
Yeah, indeed. That's definitely interesting. It is definitely, like Josh said, and I love it. We're the greatest flat Earth show you never heard of or seen. But yet here we are, 6 heads quietly promoting this. And I think, I mean, just from today, I've seen the numbers go up on our show compared to the last couple of weeks, and especially the first week we talked about it. So it's definitely getting a little bit of reaction already, and I'm excited. I'm excited and hopeful to see this thing through. Let's get her done. Let's get her moving.
But let's stay critical about it as well.
Yeah,
you know?
I would change that statement. Not promote. I'm not promoting anything. I'm analysing, mate. You know what I mean? And as much as every part of me would love this to be true, do you know what I mean? Amazing.
Well, we all would, wouldn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, but we've got to stay focused on the fact that at the moment we've got a great set of story and some great logistics and some really smart answers to a lot of questions that we've asked and not even mentioned. Do you know what I mean? That hold the story together. But we're still, I think the phrase John used was skeptically optimistic. Not that I can get it out, but
it's quite a tongue twister, that one.
What you guys are trying to say is cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way of saying it, James.
It's a little smoother for you. But yeah, no, and I mean, when I say let's go, let's get her done, I mean, let's refine it. Let's figure out, is he a shill or not, A or B? Let's pull the switch on this. Let's move this forward. Let's do what we need to do on our end to move this forward, to either advance it or say yes. You know what I mean? That's what I meant, but yeah.
And I think in John's credit again there, part of the further stuff I said we're going to put this out, but if you think that picture is sufficient to satiate people's belief in what you're talking about, that's not realistic. Now, there is talk, I won't go into it now, but there is talk of future evidence outside of photographs and stuff that people will be able to use, and we'll wait for that. And I'm very eagerly awaiting, some of the other stuff he's going to produce. So hopefully over the next few weeks we'll reveal some more stuff that adds to the, what's Bob's phrase, preponderance of evidence, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. We sit here and we wait with bated breath, right?
Yeah.
So guys, I think on that note, because I am a truck driver and I am at work, and I've got to be on the road in about 4 or 5 hours time, so I'm going to call it a night, and I'll listen to the rest of the FRINGE-CAST tomorrow morning while I'm driving down the road. So,
well, I'm so glad you could come on tonight, Tony. Thank you so much for being here.
I really appreciate you allowing me to come on and share what I know, and thanks for letting me get involved in this, because, as I said before, the only way we create a better world is by starting with ourselves, and we search for the truths in whichever way we can, and hopefully the I becomes a we, and we leave something better for our children. So, that's where we're at, I think. So, yeah.
That's it. You got to be the change you want to see in the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Tone. It's a pleasure, man. I've missed you. So good to connect with you. Take care. I'll say a prayer for you today. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful week.
I really appreciate it, James, and you look after yourself, okay? So thank you very much. So good night, all. Good night, Paul. Good night, Adam. So good night.
All right,
good night,
Tony.
Josh.
Good to meet you.
Night, mate.
Bye-bye.
Take care, pal.
Cheers, mate.
See you, Tone. Drive safe. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So a question for you guys. I'd love to throw this up on my channel, make just a short video and share the pictures. Like Adam said, not looking to promote. It's more about creating awareness, if that's the goal here.
Mhm.
I don't know how I'd position it. It just as an FYI, this is going on. Where do you point somebody that wants to know more? I mean, obviously we can point them
Welcome to our world.
Right.
Yeah, I know at the moment.
Point them to all the all the videos that you guys have already online. You can listen to the background there and that sort of thing. But he doesn't have anything independent of what you guys have shared. Is that correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Not at the moment.
That's right. Yeah.
I would add that though John is contactable. Josh, if you got his email address there, he's not saying contact people through Iron Realm. You're happy to do so, and we're happy to collate comment, which will probably help him anyway. But he's contactable on his own.
He is. If you want to send him an email, his email address is jbrahma, BRAMAHA, jbrahma@outlook.com. And that's his email. You can just email him directly there.
Would that be something that he wouldn't mind being thrown up on a video if people want to know more to reach out to him directly?
I don't think so. It's on his blog. He's got a blog called journeytotheedge.wordpress.com.
Okay.
So
perfect.
Yeah, he's got all that stuff there. So it's not like he's hiding it per se. He's just not real open.
Just point to the blog and say, "Here's more information, and if you want to know more, then by all means."
Perfect. Yeah,
ask him or tune in to Iron Realm because we'll be updating with everything we've got. Do you know what I mean? So that's all we can do at the moment, I think.
Okay, no, that's good. I mean, I just didn't want to just be like, "Hey, look, here's some pictures. What do you think?" and then just leave it there. I mean, people want to know more that think that this may be legitimate or cautiously optimistic. They want to get plugged in, and I'd like to point them somewhere.
Yeah, I edited down our original interview. We just have yet to upload it to YouTube. So I've got some of the levels adjusted so we can actually hear Karen. And I just cut out some ums and ahs and made it a little bit more fluid. And just took out all the extemporaneous stuff. And just left the interview of us with John. So we'll get that up on YouTube and try to get that picture in on there. All that good stuff.
Yeah, I'll point to that. That'd be great. Yeah. It's all about just creating awareness and getting a conversation going, if that's what John's goal is here. And what is the latest on the ETA, or not ETA, but expected launch this summer?
Fall, I think he was looking for. The way I understood it was tentatively he was hoping to get out by November of this year and get that expedition done and over with by the end of the year. Because he says it's a 2-week trip there and back. So round trip 2 weeks.
2 weeks total.
Yeah.
2 weeks total.
Total.
Okay.
So he was hoping to get it done.
Did he say where he was leaving from?
I don't think he had anything specific.
Okay. I apologize if these questions have been answered in the interview because I haven't listened to the whole thing. I remember listening to bits of it. So apologies for any repeat questions.
That's all right. And he may have said it and I missed it, or I don't know. But I think he's not necessarily in one spot too terribly long. So I think he does kind of bounce around a little bit. He was in New Zealand, I think, when we talked to him. Where the exact exfil spot's going to be, I don't have any idea. And probably
we think it's Australia, New Zealand, that area. It's not South America, not South Africa. It's that part of the world.
See, I'd almost say it's too early to guess. He was just in New Zealand when we talked to him.
Got it.
I mean, guess
if you read some of the roadmap that is published this week, it's specifically non-specific in terms of that.
Yes.
Admittedly, I've got a lot of catching up to do with you guys. So again, apologies for questions that have maybe been answered or discussed, but that's good. We're going to point people to this, and everybody can catch up.
No, it's only just come out this week. Part of what I asked John was for what credibility-wise, what had they planned to do once people had got back, how and what they were going to do. Now, this roadmap is, like I say, specifically non-specific, but it does give some indications and some assurances for people that they're not just going to rock back up and drop you off at FBI headquarters or something. Do you know what I mean?
You want me to read that up real quick? It's a short little thing he has.
Yeah, it's probably worth.
So this was his latest he put out 2 days ago.
You throw it in the chat, the link?
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. Probably better than me reading it, because who the hell wants to hear me read anything?
Well, a lot of globelings like to be spoon fed, so you never know.
That's true. So yeah, it's links up in the chat.
Got it.
And real quick, so he just says, so the team has been actively discussing what's next. I mean, what comes after the expedition to the edge and back, and do we have a plan? But first, thanks to interest coming from all parts of the world, and here's how we'll go ahead on the mission with the select 10 travelers. His font sucks. It's hard for me to see. So it says they'll be contacted via email to confirm their participation in Journey to the Edge and back. It includes vetting needed and checking and clearing of any questions regarding embarkment if needed. Other initial checks pass through. They will be sent directions for further arrival at orientation camp, which is part of the core operation. Post-orientation, we will all hold one final meeting before heading out to the port, or ports, possibly plural, as needed, to make sure everyone is ready for their journey, and then they'll set off for the journey and complete their mission. Post-arrival, when we get back, they will disembark at the port, collect all their baggage, samples, documents, etc., and head to the designated safe zone. Meeting at the safe zone to discuss post-expedition topics, relax, and gather all that has happened, final health checkup, and return. We say return because we don't want to force an immediate information dump on the world following the expedition. Everyone is allowed to gather their own thoughts about the journey, plan releasing small bits of this knowledge to their close circles, and then slowly but surely plan on talking about it openly or via social networks. There are neutral countries which will allow us to hold conferences and provide safe passage under international laws. We have to remember that we are living in the information age, and information is power. Once we have all the needed proof, there will be no doubt left about anything but just more curiosity. There is absolutely no need for commitment, as we understand this isn't for everyone. So even if you are a backer or you have the seat, there is no pressure for you to become the leader. This we leave to the Flat Earth community to take this cause forward, and surely in the coming months and years we will reap the fruits of this movement. Please remember that safety is our first and major priority, and everything else is secondary, but we are committed to completing the expedition to the edge and back. If you're interested in joining us, contact us or email us at jbrahma@outlook.com. All donations will be received in Bitcoin only. That's the end of it.
Well done. That was a mouthful.
That
Good
was
for
a
you.
mouthful.
Pretty straightforward, though. I mean, if you're looking for big flaws and errors and stinking fish, I don't see too many signs that would lead this to be false. But hey, it is the age of information. Like you said, anything could be faked right now.
So have you guys in all your conversations, whether it was public or private, what is the quote unquote the mission?
Well, the mission is to get to the edge and back, and to release the truth of what's at the edge, to show the world this edge that they've been hiding. That's the mission. Go to the edge, document it, bring it back, reveal it to the world.
Explain the control grid, how the very few in the world are abusing the power and the knowledge, and expose it, reveal it in a timely, coordinated, safe fashion. That's what very important. He wanted to get the information out is the most important idea, and how.
And how.
So the excuse I heard, Paul, for the lack of clarity in those statements is the evidence they can't give us because they'll be done for it. And that I don't think that's just life threatening. I think that's family heirs and fortunes and stuff. John alludes to being fairly wealthy. He's set his family up well, and issues I would imagine there if they're caught breaking their code. And this seems to be fundamental in his data release. So the point he makes is that the data will come back and all the proof will come back 2 weeks after people have left. And that's also part of what we're working on in the future, which is to develop some way of them releasing some information to us so we can get asked certain questions, and whoever's going do certain things that certain people want in the community to answer certain questions that may be possible from the journey. That was another point I wormed out of him.
You guys have probably talked about this, but my initial thought is, when we see this evidence, I assume it's going to be pictures and video, and what's going to make it any different than us looking at what NASA pumps out? Because it's all somebody else's, not anything, not primary knowledge, as Darren Nesbitt says. So is there plans to give us a level of confidence in the evidence that might otherwise just be more pictures and video that nobody can corroborate?
I think there's 2 points to that I got. The first is the point of this, and I think this is a change in them, because I think they saw it as 10 tickets for 100 grand each, for easy peasy, job done, and we'll go off and people will come back. And I don't think that's the response they've got. What they are looking for is people that are going to come back, and I think they're trying to take those people from the community, and that's why they're reaching out now to get people in the community involved. Some might be famous, some maybe not. I think that's important that he pulls people that are known, so that when they come back, there is that air of credibility, because the reality of first-person experience for the first trip is only a reality for 10, as he's saying. So, that can only be, that's a mathematical fact. There's only going to be 10 go. And I think some of the reason for getting it out is to get somebody out there known that's credible. And I would imagine there'll be more than one in that 10, because I don't think his choice is, like I alluded to, necessarily now based on any payment criteria. That seems to have changed. It's not something I fully understand why it's changed so much, but from discussions, as Tone alluded to, it's something that's changed as well, mate.
Well, Tony said something that kind of bothered me. When John was talking to him, he said that, he had told John that, he wasn't able to, he wasn't going to come up with $100,000 to secure his seat on the mission, but he wanted to, help out however he could, and wanted to see what part of a role he could play in helping anybody else. And John said, well, if you can only, donate so much, what we can do is sell you some of the rights to the information. And that really threw me off. Because if he's saying that, he wants the truth to get out there and the truth is for everyone, I don't know how he can lay a claim to this truth and sell the rights to distributing the truth to people that maybe can't go on the trip. So, or maybe I'm misunderstanding what he meant by buying rights or getting the rights. I don't know. But there was just something that really sat funny with me right there.
I didn't explore that option, but that's not the message I was getting from him. I think, from my understanding, when whoever comes back, he's wanting that data to go out and be disseminated freely. There isn't maybe what he was probably alluding to was if you've been a kind sponsor, we'll make sure you've got a couple of pictures for yourself, even if nothing got out. That was probably what I would read into that, because the way he was talking to me was, it's imperative not just to him, but to the 14 people that, from their perspective, are putting a lot on the line. They're not putting it on the line for 10 people to get fantastic holiday photos. They're putting it on the line to get the truth out to humanity. And if you speak to John, he does. That is one thing he does say freely and honestly, that's his cause, is to further understanding of people, of what the truth is.
which is definitely a good goal, and which is why it threw me off when he was talking about even having rights to the information to give away to someone else. It just struck me as odd that he was making that claim. But again, I'm all dealing with third-hand knowledge. I've not had any contact with John since we interviewed him 3 weeks ago, so everything I've heard has all been third-hand information.
I had to come back there. Sorry.
What's up, Tone?
I didn't want you to give out the wrong information. That's all. It's just I didn't hear you then. If what you guys were talking about after what you just said, Josh, because obviously I was trying to get connected to you again. But he didn't say he would sell me the rights. I just wanted to clarify that. What he said was that I wouldn't go, but I'd be happy to help back somebody else to go, financially or whatever. And he said, well, he didn't think that it would be right that if I helped to pay for somebody else, that I didn't have some investment in the project. So he said that he would offer me some of the rights to the information when it came back, as like one of the first people to be able to put that stuff out there. And at that point, that's when I said, well, I don't have a right to have a right, and I'm not really interested in fame for whistleblowing. I just want a better world. So I just wanted to clarify that while I was listening to you.
Gotcha. That does make sense. A little more sense. He's not actually selling anything, and I guess there could be a bit of a communication barrier there, perhaps. I don't know. That maybe by rights he just means access.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's what I gathered. He's not giving me exclusivity or anything like that. It was just, if you are going to put something into the project, we'd like to give you something back.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
In that sense, yeah.
So if I went and told you something that I saw, and then you talked about it, he's not coming after you for violating some sort of claim to this information. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So, all right. I'll see you later then. Anyway, I just wanted to come back and let you know about that.
Sweet.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for clarifying, Tony.
Right.
See you again, Ted.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Sleep well. All right. So why don't we take a little break? I need to run upstairs and
as well
use a little boy's room. So I'll just play a couple songs, I think.
Well, yeah. What do you got for us now?
I don't know. It's not Gravity. I don't really have a whole lot of anything different loaded up on here.
I know.
I may just go Hidden and Savage wasn't very good. We'll go Underdog. Underdog was pretty good, and I think that at least the title speaks to many flat earthers. So that being said, we're just going to take a few minute break, and we will be back before too long. Sit tight. Thanks for listening to Iron Realm Media Flat Earth Friday, TGIF. Iron Realm Media FRINGE-CAST. Thank God it's flat. You're listening to Iron Realm Media. I am Josh Corey. Joined with me, James, Adam, and a special guest today, Paul. But Paul is probably busy working, so he's just listening in. Hoping he can